My name's Jim Weeks. I'm a retired ophthalmologist living in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Well, yeah, I'm a breast cancer survivor. What had happened was I was back in Philadelphia visiting relatives in 2001 at Christmas time, and went out to eat with a cousin and his wife and my wife, and we were in an Italian restaurant and had a good meal, and afterwards went back to the hotel, and I was getting changed and realized I had a little red spot on my t-shirt. And I just thought I had gotten some marinara sauce on the shirt. It didn't occur to me that it wasn't on the outside shirt. Then the next night, we were at a brother's for dinner and noticed when I took off the outer shirt that I had another red spot on the new t-shirt, and pressed on the breast and noticed I had a bloody discharge and thought I could feel a little lump that led me to start looking into it. We were in Philadelphia, so it had to wait until I got back to Spartanburg, and when I got back to Spartanburg, I started looking into, I was really trying to find benign causes, for that to be the case. And women can get bloody discharge, especially if they're nursing or they have some trauma to the breast. But everything I found said that this was bad news in a man. So after, I guess we got to New Year's Eve, which was the anniversary of my first date with my wife, after we got through New Year's Eve, I wound up telling her what was going on, and we talked to a friend who was an oncologist who suggested that I see a surgeon since it had been going on for about 2 weeks. And he did he thought he could feel the lump. We did a biopsy that came out positive, and then we wound up doing a mastectomy and sentinel node biopsy, I guess, by the end of January. So that was my introduction to breast cancer. It's an unusual situation, although it's not that rare. There are around 2,000 people in the country diagnosed each year. If you break that down, there's going to be 20 or 30 in the state of South Carolina. So there's a fellow in our church who has had it. So it's not a 1 in a billion type of thing, but it's still not something that people usually think about. I didn't have any really predisposing situations. People who were heavy and obese, that's a risk factor in men or women. And that wasn't me. I was always in good shape. It's a situation where if people have liver disease, that's a risk factor. And I'm a non-drinker. Really have had no problems with my liver, so that didn't sound right. I didn't have, at the time, a strong family history. I have a large family. If you want to include my mother, there were, I guess, 9 women in the siblings of my mother and father, and one aunt had breast cancer. But, that's about what the average is going to say. I have since found, just in the past year, that a sister who was sort of estranged from the family has had breast cancer. And that raises the issue of the BRCA genes, which is a genetic reason for people to get breast cancer. And we've talked it over in the family about being tested. That's an expensive thing, but it's a situation where we've decided if you're not going to do anything, why do the test? And so we've not done the test. I would be the obvious person to get it, but even if I were tested and positive, they would still need to be checked themselves. They'd have a 50-50 chance of having the same gene. Well, I only come out of the cancer closet in recent years. When really essentially had kept it quiet from my friends, and my relatives knew, and certain friends knew, but kept it quiet from most of my patients for fear that everybody would start leaving, figuring that I was in trouble. And that, in fact, happened to a degree with a fellow in Spartanburg, another physician who had colon cancer. So it was a situation where I had sort of kept it under the rug, and then maybe 3 years ago had been asked to be on the committee for the American Cancer Society event, the all-night event that they hold at Norman High School. So, you know, remember going to a meeting there and people getting up and saying why they were there and you know, saying that they had had cancer. And I almost felt like I was at an AA meeting, even though, well, I've never been to an AA meeting, but it's a situation where, you know, I would imagine that was the same sort of thing where you announce that, you know, I'm so-and-so and I've had cancer. And, you know, since then have gotten a little bit more involved and did, you know, wear a survivor jersey last year at the race and did go down on the field. And it was a situation where I did get some sideline glances from some of the women that were down there, but it does happen in men, so yeah, I think it's good for people to know that. Well, I think everybody tends to go along and think that there's that cancer can happen to them. If you look at cancer across the board, 1 man in 2 is going to get cancer, 1 woman in 3. Obviously, breast cancer is a big part of that for women, not as much so for men. But it's a situation where I think everybody tends to think of the C word as, you know, something that they're not going to have to deal with. And the odds are that they are, either themselves or their family in one way or another. The other thing that I thought as I went through all this was that it was a little bit, I even saw other physicians who would tend to shy away from you a little bit afterwards because they didn't know what to say. And in reality, if they had somebody else who was a 3-pack-a-day smoker, they were probably more at risk than I was right off the bat. So it's a situation where people take cancer in a different way than they might somebody who has a heart problem or has even high blood pressure or diabetes. So it backs people off a little bit more. I think once people realize that you're still around, though, they sort of drop that as time is going on. I don't think I get that sort of reaction anymore.